Good evening, members, ladies and gentlemen. Please take your seats. Before we start this evening, I need to make the public attending aware that if the fire alarm does go off this evening, please make your way out of the nearest emergency exit and gather at the front of Runnymede Hall. The meeting is being recorded and live streamed on the internet. If you are seated in the public area of the council chamber, it's possible that your image will become part of the broadcast. And lastly, may I ask everyone present to switch mobile phones off or onto silent. So, item 1, do we have, I've received apologies for Councillor Grigg and Councillor Wimbledon, Councillor Harbinson and Councillor Tom Gibson. Do we have any other? No further apologies. And item 2, declarations of interest. Members, are there any declarations? No. Members, for item 3, given the relevance of the question by the member of the public to the report in item 5, I propose to move a motion without notice that the question follows that report. Councillor Blackwell, as leader, will you second the motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd please second the motion.
Thank you so much. Members, is that agreed? Agreed. Thank you. So item 4, we have the revised local development scheme and update on the Castle Point plan. Members, we have a report from the Assistant Director for Climate and Growth asking Council to approve revisions to the local development scheme for the Castle Point plan. Ms Parrott, will you introduce the report, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Council, this is a report seeking approval for a revised local development scheme, the LDS. The LDS sets out the timetable, progress and risks for the preparation of the Castle Point plan and other intended key planning documents. Members may recall that the LDS was last updated in January 2004 and work has continued that timetable since, including the publication of and engagement on the Issues and Options report in the summer. Work continued at pace on preparing the Castle Point plan during the autumn of 2024. However, in December 2024, the government published revisions to the national planning policy set out in the National Planning Policy Framework, the NPPF. These changes mean that this council must undertake additional work to ensure that the plan it submits for examination is both legally compliant and sound. Basically, some new obstacles have been put between us and the goalposts in respect of progressing the plan. In publishing the revision to the NPPF, the government wrote to us and all of the other local authorities in England and asked them to review their local development schemes by the 6th of March 2025. Taking into account the additional work that needs to be undertaken to ensure that the Castle Point plan is legally sound and compliant, the timetable for preparing the Castle Point plan has been extended by 2 months. It is now planned that this council will receive the draft Castle Point plan for consideration for publication and submission on the 26th of March 2025. To meet this timetable, work is already underway at pace on the additional work required, and officers are working with partners, suppliers, the portfolio holder and the Castle Point plan board closely to ensure that the new timetable is met and the plan that is presented to you in March is legally compliant and sound. A risk to the timetable remains as we still await guidance on key changes to the NPPF, such as how the government expects Greenbelt reviews to be progressed. However, we are managing this risk as far as possible, and if necessary, we will report to the council if there are any further delays arising as soon as possible. The recommendation is as set out in the report. However, in considering the recommendation, I would ask you to note that the table at page 6 of this report and the table at page 9 of the LDS at Appendix 1 do not align. The table in the LDS should be amended to read submission in June 2025. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Ms Parrott. Councillor Blackwell, will you as leader be moving the recommendation to council as set out in paragraph 3.1?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I'd like to move the recommendation set out in paragraph 3.1. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Gibson, as deputy leader, will you be seconding the recommendation?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I will second the recommendation.
Thank you. Members, we have a motion for debate. Would anyone like to speak on the recommendation? Councillor Gibson.
Yeah, if I may, Madam Mayor, I'd just like to only say a couple of words. I think it's important that convince the members in here, and more importantly the residents of Castle Point, that it's unfortunate, this delay. It's less than 2 months. But like Amanda said in her report, if we was to go tonight and we was to do the draft local plan, it would be found unsound. There has been changes. There was changes made in the MPPF in December. It's through no fault of our own. This changes by the Labour government that have now introduced the, if you like, the grey belt, green belt issues. We've had to do another green belt review. But I still like to say that although we're now going to submit in June, we are still pretty much on time. So I think I'm right in saying back in 2022, I think June was always going to be our submission date anyway, but we managed to put it forward 2 months. So we decided reluctantly that it was the only option we had if we was to go to Regulation 19 without the further evidence, because we've said all along it needs to be supported with robust evidence. The chances are the plan would have been found unsound almost immediately, and all that hard work that we've done, all the hard work that the members have done, the Castle Point Plan Board, Amanda and her team would have all been for nothing. So although it's disappointing, I just want to reassure members and members of the public that we will be submitting a plan in June of this year. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Gibson. Councillor Ainsley.
I just wanted to ask a question. I don't know if I should ask it now or after we voted on the proposal. The Chancellor of the Exchequer has yesterday come out and made further changes regarding development, which should be defaulted as a yes, which is near to transport hubs. Is that going to delay us any further?
Thank you, Councillor. I'll defer to Ms Parrott, or Councillor Gibson, would you like to take this?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll happily answer that. As of the moment, I heard what the Chancellor said, but as far as I'm aware, it's not policy. It's just something she has said, and it will not affect any work we do going forward.
Okay, so members, I will move to the vote. If I can have a show of hands for those in favour of the motion. Unanimous. Thank you, members. We have a unanimous vote and that is carried. Next we have agenda item 5, which is the English Devolution White Paper. Members, we have a report from the Chief Executive providing details of the contents and implications of the Government's White Paper on English devolution. Ms Hutchins, would you like to introduce the report? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Good evening, members. You will have seen in the national and local press that there's been a lot of publicity surrounding the English Devolution White Paper, which was published by the Government in December of last year, and in particular what it means for the County of Essex, both in terms of devolution and local government reorganisation. The purpose of the report before you is to set out in one place what we know so far about the White Paper and what it means, both nationally and locally. But it is only a white paper for now, and we expect a lot more detail to emerge through ministerial guidance and new legislation as the White Paper becomes a bill and then an Act of Parliament. At the time of the publication of this report, the 3 upper tier councils had submitted a request to government to be included in the devolution priority programme, and for Essex County Council and Thurrock Council to postpone their 2025 elections to enable the County of Essex to elect its first mayor in May of 2026. We await notification as to whether that request has been granted by government and the touch paper has been lit, but we expect that notification to come this week in order that the statutory instrument may be laid to postpone the elections if indeed Essex is accepted into the programme. Members, you can see from the report that the high-level timetable for authorities within the priority programme sets 3 major dates, each 1 year apart. Mayoral elections in 2026, shadow local authority elections in 2027, and vesting day in 2028 when the new structures go live and the old structures are abolished. To reflect the proposed pace of change and the significant amount of relative uncertainty, the leader has created a new cabinet member role specifically to help focus on this fast-changing agenda and to support the leader and the council in shaping the future administrative arrangements for our borough. The last national local government reorganisation was 50 years ago, and we can expect that the arrangements that are put in place now will last at least as long. This is a once-in-a-generation opportunity to put in place administrative arrangements which will better serve the people of our borough, and the council must therefore be fully engaged and participate in this process. Otherwise, we will be left behind, and decisions about us will be made without us. The leader, supported by the deputy leader, presents a very strong response by this council. Members, there is a lot of information in the report, and I expect that you will have a lot of questions, but not all of which I'm going to be able to answer this evening. However, the main highlights I would like to draw your attention to are these. Firstly, devolution is about the creation of a new mayoral strategic authority and a mayor, with new powers and new money from central government. It is not a replacement for Essex County Council, although some aspects of ECC's strategic functions may still migrate to the mayoral strategic authority. Secondly, local government reorganisation is different to devolution, but it is linked to devolution in that the new unitary authorities will become the constituent members of the mayoral strategic authority in due course, so in 2028 on vesting day. The numbers and geographies of the unitary authorities has not yet been agreed, and ultimately the final say rests with government. However, Essex has been asked to put forward its suggestions in draft form in March, if it is part of the priority programme, and in more substantial near final form by August, and that's what the timetable says. The government is clear that these proposals should be as much as possible based on consensus by the participating authorities, but it is not disallowing different submissions. Leaders and chief executives from all 15 councils in the Essex geography will be working through proposals to try and achieve that consensus. Decisions about devolution will not come to this council for approval, because those are decisions relating only to the 3 upper tier authorities of Essex County Council, Southend City Council and Thurrock Council. Public consultation relating to devolution will be led by government, and that is to ensure that all of the authorities that are in the priority programme move to the same rhythm and beat, and that elections happen concurrently. So, conversely, however, my expectation is that decisions about local government reorganisation that affect this council will come to this council for decisions. But at this moment in time, I can't tell you with certainty what decisions or when. And I expect that clarity to be provided by government as part of this legislative process and through the implementation of what will become the English Devolution Act. And similarly, I expect that legal requirements around the timing and nature of public consultation will also be made clear through legislative requirements. What we can say from the white paper is that devolution and local government are statutory processes. That means that the council cannot influence or engage with those processes other than in accordance with the law. But within that legislative framework, the council will do all that it can to ensure the most advantageous position and best outcomes for the residents of the borough, and after all, that is indeed our current statutory function. And on behalf of myself and the leader and the deputy leader, I can commit to ensuring that members and residents will be kept informed of developments with regular briefings, reports and communications as we move through the timetable to 2028. In the meantime, members, officers and the administration have a job to do, and for us it remains business as usual. We've made our community commitments publicly, and we are currently consulting on our corporate plan, which sets out publicly how we intend to deliver against those community commitments. The modernisation and improvement journey we have been on since 2022 is more important now than ever, and we will be continuing on with the things that really matter to our residents: the Castle Point Plan, the Housing Improvement Programme, proposals around our waste and recycling collection arrangements, and investing in the places and spaces in and around the borough, and of course settling a balanced budget and a medium-term financial strategy which will achieve all of that. At Castle Point Borough Council, we are custodians of our place, for now and for the benefit of future generations and whatever this council may morph into. So the people, places and issues remain the same, and those are the things which will remain our focus, whatever else devolution and local government offer requires us to deliver. Thank you.
Thank you, Angela. Members, do you have any comments or questions on the report? Councillor Blackwell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you for allowing me to stay seated. Madam Mayor, the last time we had local government review was exactly 50 years ago, and that was when Canvey Island and Benfleet emerged to become Castle Point. I've sat through a lot of meetings, and you know, the one thing I will say, devolution, when it first came about a few years ago, I fully supported 100%, because it meant powers being devolved down from central government to local district councils. But of course, this new government has changed it slightly. So the new government, instead of being devolution to local districts, they decided to do a local government review, which, as you know, will mean that all councils in Essex will be abolished. This is something which is going to be quite drastic. It's something which public consultation will go ahead from the government, but it won't go ahead, as far as I know at this present time, on local government review. It's going to go ahead on the Essex Mayor. I'll just read a little bit which came out of one of the publications about public involvement. And the one thing I've always prided myself on for all the years I've been on this council is public engagement. We've been put here by the public. In my mind, they should all have a say in everything, especially something so drastic like this. But public involvement, because of devolution and the LGR, can only be achieved by implementation of new statutory law. The government is clear that it is the ultimate decision maker when it comes to agreeing devolution and LGR. The white paper states that enabling legislation will contain ministerial powers to compel councils to agree at the last resort. So what they're saying, if you don't agree with it, it's going to happen. We're going to force it on you. So, you know, Angela's right. So we've got to be in it to try and persuade various other members of councils where we want to go as a council. There are various different equations going about how many unitary councils will be set up in Essex, ranging from 3 to 5. The government originally said each unitary had to have 500,000 population, but they seem to be flexible on that at the moment, bearing in mind that most London boroughs have only got 300 plus. So I think, you know, there's a lot of work to be done, and you know, Councillor Warren Gibson and myself and Angela will be involved in this. The one thing I would like to say to members here, we will not be making any decisions. We don't have powers to make any decisions. We're there to try and persuade what's best for Castle Point. But what we will do, whenever we get information, we will bring it back to the council. Because I think it's only important, very important, that not only all councillors know where we are and where we're going, but of course our residents. And I think, you know, I say yet again, you know, consultation is so important. But I think with this government, consultation means blockers. They don't like that word consultation because residents may not like it. So I'll end it there, Madam Mayor, just to say that we'll do our best, what we can for Castle Point and our residents. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Blackwell. Councillor Gibson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, totally agree with everything the leader's just said. But I think it's worth pointing out that this isn't devolution. This is the biggest attack on local democracy disguised as devolution. This is simply in place because, and both parties, I mean, we blame Labour because they're the government at the moment and they're bringing it in, but the Conservatives, as we see on the 10th of January, they're quite happy to support it because they'll sit there, and politics in this country, it's a bit like a ski lift. You'll have the Conservative Party, they'll go and do a lap, maybe two. They'll jump off. Labour will go and do a lap, maybe two. This is all about the two-party system.
Yes.
Because what they want to do, they don't want pesky people like us involved in politics that actually care about the residents, that want to represent the residents. I think, I won't quote Councillor Bentley directly, but he said something along the lines, I think on the 10th of January, that they're not delaying the elections because they're afraid of elections. As he said, in Essex, they win elections. Have a look around this chamber. I can't see many of them. And it's the same across a lot of Essex. So don't let anyone kid you that this is about devolution. Yeah, I'm going to say no more before I get into trouble. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, members. So, Councillor Dearson, thank you.
Sorry, this may be a stupid question. I tend to ask those. But Angela, you mentioned waste disposal and we're still going to concentrate on these type of things. But there is a cost to that, and I know Mike's done a lot of work on this already. But if we do go ahead with devolution, then we're going to merge with other councils who might have different waste disposal initiatives to us. So is these sort of things that we are still going to continue with, and the cost involved when it may be irrelevant because we may have to change them all in 2 or 3 years' time?
Ms Hutchins.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's a good question. The point, I think, is that any change is still 3 years away. We have legislative requirements and statutory obligations that are relevant right here, right now. We can't sit in limbo for the next 3 years and do nothing and wait for a guillotine to inevitably fall. We have to control our future, we have to manage our budget, and we have to abide with what the government requires us to do with respect to legal compliance. So there is always an opportunity to look at ongoing arrangements beyond that kind of 3-year window, so looking at contractual arrangements longer into the future. But if the imperative is to do things now, then the imperative remains to do things now. The inevitable consequence of reconfiguring the local government estate is that you will have a patchwork quilt of contracts, contractors, and differing service level arrangements across the patch, including differential rates of council tax. So this is why it's not an easy piece of work to be done to move that all into a new authority. But that's just an example of some of the complexities that I think we're going to be facing over the next year.
Thank you, Ms Hutchins. Councillor Fuller.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Angela. Just a little sort of my addition to that, Councillor Dearson. You heard earlier on, as far as this council is concerned, at this moment in time, it's business as usual. Serving our residents, providing the services that our residents require, making sure that we are the best, the most efficient council providing those services. We've done a lot of work, and you've kind of alluded to the amount of work that's been done. We've done a lot of work bringing the waste, the refuse and collection service. It is needing to be done now. We have to do this simply because we want to keep for next year, the year after that, we want to keep providing an effective and service that we can be proud of and the residents will be proud of. come devolution, who knows what the shape is going to look like. But trust me, our residents will still be putting their bins out on the front on the morning. They will still be collected. All that needs to be done. We need the fleet to do it. We need the servicing facilities to do it. And at the moment, obviously, we have the workforce to do it. So as far as I'm concerned, with all of these programmes that come under my remit, business as usual. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fuller. Councillor Lillis.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Noting the change in cabinet roles, can I take this opportunity to thank the Deputy Leader for the outstanding work that he has carried out as the portfolio holder for strategic planning. And I think everyone in this chamber, indeed the Borough, owes him their gratitude. And can I just ask whether he will remain as the chair of the Castle Point Plan Board? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Gibson.
Thank you, Councillor Lillis. Simple answer to your question is yes, I will remain as chairman of the Castle Point Plan Board. I think it's important that I see it through to the end. I want to see it through to the end. And I thank you for your kind words, but I think it's worth pointing out that it's a team effort. It's the officers and the plan board and everyone else. But the answer is yes, I will continue as chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Ainsley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I apologise for not standing up last time. You probably didn't notice. Before the vote at Essex County Council, I actually sent an email to all 75 councillors, just pointing out my views. Interestingly, it was only independents and conservatives that responded to me. But I just wanted to put on record some of the things that I wrote in my email. So I said that the political impetus, particularly in the Borough of Castle Point and across Essex, shows the electorate have lost faith in the main political parties and want change. 24 People's Independent Party councillors and 15 CIIP councillors were duly elected for a 4-year term by the communities to represent them in May 2024. It is said that a devolved government offered numerous advantages, including localised decision-making, increased accountability, flexibility and improved public services, but that can only be realised if all concerned have an equal say in how devolved power is administered. So I really hope that our leader and CEO get a chance to input on behalf of Castle Point. And it is also, considering the history that we've had, what we've taken over, I also want to point out that it's certainly true that devolution can also present challenges such as potential inequality between regions, administrative complexity, coordinated difficulties, risk of political fragmentation and the potential for corruption with local elites exploiting their positions. I'm extremely concerned that Castle Point will actually end up at the bottom of the begging bowl again. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Blackwell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can I, I think we need to get one thing quite clear. We're not being taken over by anybody. And people seem to get that in their mind. We're being taken over by Southend, we've been taken over by Basildon or Thurrock. No, we're not. They won't exist like us. So we'll be there, whoever we're aligned into, at starting a brand new council. So it'll be, we'll have so many councils from here, so many councils from wherever we're aligned to. So, you know, I talk to people, we're being taken over. No, we're not. Because them councils, whoever around us, won't exist as well. So it'll be a brand new council, and we've got to be in there to shape that brand new council so the residents of Castle Point get the best deal out of it. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Councillor Edwards.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This, certainly from the perspective of Castle Point, is in no way devolution, it's centralisation, and you point was very well made there. But just the mention of business as usual, is any work going on at the moment on the impact of the willingness of our suppliers to contract with us again as a result of this, because it introduces huge commercial uncertainty. I don't know if that work started yet.
Thank you, Councillor. I will ask the CEO.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Edwards. That there's a piece of the leadership team and I have set aside some time in about a week's time to do exactly that kind of analysis. There's a triage piece of work that we need to do as a council that says, what are we already doing? What are those things that we're already doing must we continue to do? What are the additional things that we need to do, and what does that mean in terms of prioritisation and capacity? And part of that is looking at all the due diligence that's going to be required for this particular process. The timetable, assuming that Essex is in the priority programme, and as I say, that hasn't yet been confirmed, but the timetable is pacey in that it looks for initial solutions in March and more detailed solutions come the autumn. So we expect that information to start to shape up fairly quickly, and that will mean that I can keep this chamber updated. But certainly the risks associated with our delivering business as usual have increased. All the more important, therefore, that as a council we demonstrate that we continue to be here to do business, and that's important not just for the body corporate in terms of managing its risk, but to be perfectly honest, is also really important for my staff, who need to know that they are here, that you want them to be here, and they have a job that needs to be continued to be done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Angela. Any further questions or comments? Councillor Ainsley.
Yes, I'd just like to put the record straight. Beverly Egan did actually reply to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Okay, so members, is that noted? Thank you very much. So we will move back to agenda item 3, questions from members of the public, of which notice has been received. And members, we have received one question from the public, and this is set out in item 3 on the agenda. If I can remind the public and members that in accordance with the Constitution, there is no further opportunity for a member of the public to make a statement or to ask a supplementary question, and no councillor other than those answering the question is permitted to speak. Now the question is from...
Apologies, point of order, Madam Mayor, if I may.
Yes?
I'm aware of the Constitution that once the question has been asked, members are not allowed to speak or make comment on it.
Correct.
So if I may, I would like to get some clarity now regarding the question, or regarding the member of the public who is asking the question.
Mr. Michael Dixon.
Yes, the reason I say that is because it's been brought to my attention by some residents and other members that on Mr. Dixon's social media, particularly his Facebook page, which is public, I think it's called the Resident Champion of Funsley, something like that. I mean, that's not relevant. But it states on there that he works at Castle Point Borough Council, and he has worked here since 2022. If somebody could clarify that for me, please.
Okay, I will just take advice. 1 second. Okay, I will defer to the CEO.
Thank you, Councillor. The situation is, as I understand it, that the Facebook page was created when Mr. Dixon was an elected member of this chamber. The status for employment in the Facebook rubric has been clearly completed as Castle Point Borough Council. Elected members are not employees of the Borough Council, and so I suspect that that's where the original entry came from. But we are in the process of writing to Mr. Dixon to ask him to correct his status on that Facebook page on the basis that he has corrected the title of it and it no longer refers to himself as a councillor, but has neglected to update the employment status.
Thank you, Angela. Does that answer your question, Councillor Gibson?
It does, Madam Mayor, and thank you very much, Angela.
Thank you. So, The question is, as we have heard from Mr. Michael Dixon, and is addressed to the leader. Is Mr. Dixon present this evening? No. So, on this occasion, as I have previously stated in a former meeting when we had a number of public questions from former members of this council who were not present to ask the question, and I exercised my right as the mayor as to whether we have the questions asked in their absence. It is in the Constitution that it is normal to be encouraged to have the members asking questions present here. Now, as Mr. Dixon is not present, I am still willing, as this is relevant to the debate that we've just heard, to allow this question to be read out, and I will invite Ms. Hutchins to read the question on his behalf. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Members, this is a question to the leader, which reads as follows. In light of the proposed devolution, will the council commit to holding a referendum to ensure residents can decide on the future of Castle Point? Doing so will safeguard local democracy and protect the interests of our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Angela. Councillor Blackwell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, like yourself, I do encourage residents to actually get involved in local politics. I do encourage residents to put in questions to this council. That's their right. But it would be nice if those who put in questions actually come along and ask the question, because they're taking the time to write that question. Come along and ask the question. You want to take part. It would be nice if Mr. Dixon, if he comes again, will come along and ask the question himself. So, as it's been made clear in the report before the council this evening, devolution and local government reorganisation are government policy which they propose to legislate upon. As things stand, the public consultation relating to devolution will be led by the government at some point later this year, ahead of the mayoral elections in May 2026. It is not clear at the moment what public consultation will look like in relations to the local government reorganisation, as this will be prescribed by law. The council will be required to abide by whatever the legislative requirements will be. There are no general powers for this council or any local authority to hold a referendum outside specific legislation power. This is an evolving picture, and members and residents will be continued to be updated when more details arrive. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Blackwell. We have one final item on the agenda this evening, item 6, which is the extension of the 6-month rule in respect of a member. Members, we have a report asking Council to consider an extension of the 6-month rule for Councillor Peter Gregg. Ms Law, if I could ask you to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This report asks Council to consider an extension of the 6-month rule for Councillor Peter Gregg. Under the Local Government Act 1972, there is a requirement for all members to attend a formal meeting of Council in any 6-month period. The 1972 Act stipulates that if a member of a local authority fails throughout a period of 6 consecutive months from the date of his last attendance to attend any meeting of the authority, he shall, unless the failure was due to some reason approved by the authority before the expiry of that period, cease to be a member of the authority. This means disqualification is automatic, and once rendered disqualified, the member cannot attend any meeting or participate in council business. In summary, the member ceases to hold office. A member can ask the council for an extension of the 6-month rule, and only council can authorise that extension. Any extension cannot be retrospective and must be presented to council for consideration prior to the end of the 6-month period. Councillor Peter Gregg has been a member of Castle Point Borough Council since the 4th of May 2006 and was re-elected for a further 4-year term on the 2nd of May 2024. Councillor Gregg has not attended any formal meetings since the meeting of Development Management Committee on the 6th of August 2024 due to a serious chronic medical condition and would need to attend a formal meeting of the authority by the 5th of February 2025 in order to comply with the 6-month rule. However, due to his ongoing ill health, Councillor Gregg has asked Council to consider extending the 6-month rule with effect from 5th of February 2025. Madam Mayor, it is proposed that Council resolves to approve an extension of the 6-month rule for Councillor Peter Gregg for a 6-month period commencing from the 5th of February 2025. Thank you.
Thank you, Angela. Councillor Blackwell, would you like to move the recommendation set out?
Thank you. Madam Mayor, before I do, I'm sure all members would like to wish Councillor Gregg all our best wishes. I would like to move the recommendation set out in paragraph 3.1 of the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Gibson, would you like to second the motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Absolutely, I will second the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, would anyone like to speak on the recommendation? Okay, if I could have a show of hands for those in favour of the motion. That's a unanimous vote and is carried. Thank you, Council, and I too will extend sending my best wishes on behalf of the Council to Peter. Thank you. Before we close, there is no further business, but before we close, I would like to extend a happy Chinese New Year to all those celebrating, and I would also like to close the meeting and thank you all for attending. The time is 19:42. Have a lovely evening. Thank you all.